Welcome to the first Nbyula Talk. We have Ayushi here from TU Munich with us, and this talk is being broadcasted throughout globally. I hope you enjoy this talk, and meanwhile, please keep on sending your questions that we can relate to Ayushi, as in whenever we have the Q&A session. Welcome, Ayushi. Thank you for joining us here.
Thank you, Shivanj. I'm elated to join.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure knowing about your story and all that you've been through, and such a long way that you've come. First of all, congratulations on all the success that you've achieved, and we'd like to know a lot more about it and your insights and your struggles and your elations. So, why don't we start with the first things first? What made you choose overseas studies? A, and B, why specifically Germany?
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting me, Shivanj. So, firstly, as you mentioned, why I decided to pursue my overseas studies. So, basically, when I completed my education, which was electrical and electronics engineering, I worked for 2 years in an IT firm. And later, I decided that, there is something which is missing, and maybe to pursue in a higher management, I would need some more. Polishing and some more education. So at that point of time, I decided to pursue masters, and I started looking for different options for myself. In the meantime, I got to know that okay, there is a very good opportunity to study abroad, and it can definitely bridge the gap between what I'm looking forward to in my future endeavor. So I tried looking for different examination which I can give, which is GRE and GMAT, and also the language examination, and looking for particular courses which I'm interested in. And at that particular time, I came across Germany, and it had great universities. There are different public universities which ranks really good, and their quality of education is definitely top notch, I would say. So also financially it will bear your pain, I would say. So that was one of the reason I decided to pursue my masters in Germany.
Right. So all of this, it sounds like you have given it a fair bit of thought before jumping into higher studies and where to pursue your studies. Besides the rankings of the universities, which most of the people tend to take as a criteria to choose programs, what other factors did you consider? Finance were obviously one of the things that you mentioned, but in terms of objectively evaluating one program versus the other, let's say even inside Germany, what were the other factors that you considered before taking a call on those?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, this is a very good question. I would say it's very important to know where you're landing, in the final destination. So I only applied to TU Munich, but to both the campuses in Germany, which was Munich and Heilbronn campus. And I was very clear that I want to apply for masters in management and masters in management and technology, because these were the two programs which I thought that it's well suited for my career, because I already did my technical studies before.
Mhm.
And the most attractive part which I found at TUM Munich was Unternehmertum, which is like a startup incubation center in
Yes.
TUM. And yeah, the professors there, they are really good. They have quite renowned names in the country, not specifically in Germany, I would say, but all over the world. Also the ranking of the university, the kind of opportunities Germany provide in terms of research assistantship, in terms of working student, in terms of internship. I think it weighed more in comparison to States University and Canadian University, I would say.
Okay. Okay. Now, in terms of overseas study programs, the most common thought process is what's the easiest to do when you think about language barrier, especially coming from India, there's a lot about language barrier, and the common perception is that
Mm-hmm.
that you'll have to be proficient in German before, you even land there. What has been your experience about it? How much of a myth or reality is it that you need to be proficient in German or be at a certain level with German before you land in German?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can share my personal experience because I can't comment on it because
Absolutely.
yeah, when I talk about myself, I'm still learning German. I'll start my B1 now. So
Okay.
when I came to Germany, I did A1 course because everybody out there will tell you this, that okay, you're moving to another country which has different language, and you
Hmm.
have to learn, like it's better to learn and know the basics of it.
Hmm.
But it was such a hustle when I was trying to come to Germany. I learned A1 German, but I would not say that I was fluent in it.
Okay.
And because my course requirement was also there that I we have to know a 1.1 German, so I just did it for that sake of doing it.
Hmm.
But I would definitely say in my case it turned out to be a myth, because it is definitely important because you are staying in a foreign country. You should know the local language. It is helpful in communicating with local people, and you can set up a kind of impression on the other Germans. It helps you to make friends.
Yeah.
But it's not that important. I've done internships in German companies, but it's nowhere important that it's not mandatory. I would not say important. It's not mandatory that you should know German, but I would definitely say that it's very helpful if you know the language.
Right, right. So, from the gist of it, knowing German is a great advantage, but it's definitely not necessarily, and certainly not before you land in Germany. Is that
Mhm.
right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. And how has been your experience with language learning? Like, a lot of people find it like very, very challenging. Uh, Most of them give up midway.
Yeah.
What has been your experience?
When I was coming here, my dad told me you have no other choice than to learn German, and that motivated me. I would say, indeed, it's difficult to learn a new language from scratch, but if I believe that if we know English, it's not that difficult because it's the only difficult part, at least for me, was to learn the articles.
Okay.
I think you would agree on that.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, otherwise, yeah, I try watching movies. I try reading some local news in German. That definitely helps me a lot.
Yeah. Devi is a good resource on that. I generally follow Devi.com. For our English speaking audience, it's dw.com. So
Mhm.
if you want a good resource, dw.com is the official German news agency which promotes German language and generally simplifies the news to that level that even the beginners in the language can follow it. So I found like a lot of help and support exists for learning German compared to many other languages, and it's fantastic actually. I know like properly learning German with
Mhm.
all the grammar and all the nouns and articles, that takes a while. And honestly, even on the level of any natural language that we use, most of the times we are not thinking about grammar. It's more like you have been using it more often. So you tend to say and acknowledge the right thing. So I think it's a factor of time and practice, but I do agree that it's not a necessity, certainly not in Germany.
Mhm.
What has been your experience with getting help from other students, Germans and non Germans, when it comes to it, and especially putting into perspective that you did not know the language? How much of a hindrance was there?
Uh, I would not say that there was there was any hindrance in my career path, but yeah, I mean, initially I feel that if I had known German, it would have been very easy for me to mingle with the international crowd. But having said that, when I went to Brussels, I made a lot of international friends, and there also, like, Brussels is a hub spot of Dutch and French, but there I realized that language is not something which is needed to make friends or to mingle with people. So yeah, it's a mix of both of it, I would say.
That sounds great. Um, One important consideration for most of the students aspiring to study overseas is finance and how to finance your entire education, including the expenses. Um, how did you go about figuring those things out? What would be the do's and don'ts that you would recommend for the aspiring students?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, definitely it was one of the factor when I was considering my country choice and the stream which I want to pursue. And I financed my studies on my own. Like, my parents helped me in it. I would say that when I came here, Germany opens a lot of path for you in terms of supporting yourself with internships, with HEVI jobs, which is research assistantship jobs. There are also private local jobs which we can do,
Hmm.
and that makes one's life way easier, I would say, because you don't stress out in that case.
Hmm.
And as everybody has, I had a blocked account of 10,000 euros.
Hmm.
And the do's and don'ts which I would like to mention here was, I had my bank account which which gave all the money in at once
Hmm.
to me. And at that time I didn't realize, because you are in another country, you want to enjoy,
Hmm.
so you can't control your expenses. So no, I would definitely say that there are certain banks which hold out your money in monthly basis,
Hmm.
and then they send you around 825 euros, if I'm not wrong, per month for a
Hmm.
year.
Hmm.
Which is definitely helpful, because in that way you can control your expenses, I would say, because you won't have, like, a
Yes.
upper limit in that
Yes.
case. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would say that financial discipline is one of the most important aspects, which is sort of enforced by the bank itself. If you have a blocked account which only releases 1/12 every month.
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
Okay. What about the short jobs, or in German, the Kurzarbeit
hmm
that apply for? What has been your experience or experience of your peers around that?
There are a lot of opportunities for mini jobs for
Mm-hmm.
working student, for internship. Unlike different countries and universities which don't allow their students to work outside of their university, there is no foundation in Germany. You can work anywhere. Just that we have to make sure that we are not exceeding the working hour limit, which an international student is supposed to do. So it's 20 hours per week during your semester.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's with me, with my peer members and my friends, it was quite easy to land up with a job.
Mm-hmm.
um, it's not like a rocket science, I would say. If you are not able to get a working student, it's there are various websites where we can apply to the mini jobs,
Mm-hmm.
which won't add any value to your resume for sure, but it will definitely help you to bear your expenses, I would say.
Great. So what we'll do is that in talks with you, because this is a time-bound talk, we'll compile a list of those sites and we'll publish it to our attendees so that they can also benefit from those and can later on help themselves or their friends who are pursuing their overseas education in Germany. So thank you for sharing that with us. um, One very important consideration, and it's a word which crosses everybody's mind, is scholarships.
Mhm.
And everyone is very, very focused on getting scholarships. So what has been your experience around scholarships?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to mention this that I mean, Nebula is doing a great job in providing, a career path to somebody because you have compiled knowledge beforehand and you can guide students, which I didn't had when I was coming to Germany, and I really feel that I had missed some opportunities because. I know few students and my colleagues who received Deutschland Stipendum, which is given to students who are coming for masters and bachelors, and they can apply beforehand during their admission process. So it's like I'm talking about my particular university. I'm not aware of all the other universities, but that is the case with TUM Munich.
Yeah.
They provide you stipend of 300 euros, and it just counts your personal performance and your grades, like your bachelor grades if you're applying for masters. So that's one of the very good scholarship initially for students, I would say.
Mhm.
Again, for other scholarship, maybe everything is mentioned in the dart.de.com,
Yeah.
so they can refer there. They can mention all their profile, like what they're pursuing, what they have done, how much they have, how much is their grade, and they'll give you, the website gives you the preferences where you can apply, and which can be suitable option for you.
Right. And on that front, it's a very important point that you mentioned, that you have to plan a little bit ahead to get the scholarships. You have to know the right scholarships as far as your program and university goes. These things would massively help you later, which I think is something that you sort of mentioned, that had there been Nebula, that would have really immensely helped you out a lot.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so on that front, we'll also share with our attendees a link to our database of scholarship and all the data that we have collected on scholarships and that we are actively collecting. Uh, this
Mhm.
should help the students. Germany has excellent scholarship programs, both public and private organizations,
Mhm.
and it has a massive coverage of students coming from developing nations, also focusing on women and minority. So
Definitely.
that's definitely something no candidate should miss upon. So that's one of the things that uh, we are thankful for you to bring to the focus. Next, again, is you have mentioned Erasmus experience during your internship time and during the time that you spent over here. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on that front?
Sure, I would love to. So, when I came to Munich, my desire was to go and do an exchange semester. I was
Yeah.
not aware of Erasmus internships and Erasmus semesters during that time because of lack
Hmm.
of knowledge again.
Hmm.
So, and in the middle of that, COVID happened, and I couldn't go for my exchange semester. In the meantime, there was an opening in my university portal for this opportunity, which was Erasmus internship at Eurotech University's
Hmm.
Allianz, and
Hmm.
it is basically a part of European Commission into education sector. And I thought that this can be a great opportunity for me.
Hmm.
Later, when I was interviewed, I was told that I'll also get an Erasmus scholarship because this is supported by German government. So I was more happy. I was elated again, And I think that everybody should try it, because you get like once in a lifetime opportunity. And I believe it's very helpful to know other culture if you are planning to stay back, and if you're planning to work in an MNC. If you go and stay in any other country and know their culture, behavior of people, meet other people, do networking, it's very helpful.
Right. So, one good point out of this is about networking. Um, Mostly in India and much other developing world, there's not a whole lot of focus on networking. The idea being this, that you focus on your study, you focus on your programs, and you focus on your domain related skill set. Um, but how much of a difference do you see over here? One prime example of that is student job fairs, which roughly translated in the developing world are the placements. From what I understand, there are no placements in Germany, uh, and networking comes into focus. So, can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that front?
Yeah, yes, there is no placement culture as we have in India, but
Hmm.
there are job messe and job fairs which are there in Germany, in particular university, outside the university, where we can go meet people, give them our resumes, and maybe if they're interested, they can call you back. Also, networking is very helpful in terms of mentoring,
Hmm.
and I personally like that a lot, because you need guidance. It's a new arena, it's a new ball game for you, and you definitely need guidance from somebody who have experienced that before. And in that place, networking plays a very big role. And it also tells you, various events, if it's happening in any other organization, any other university. It also opens up a lot of gates if you want to pursue further in education sector, like maybe post grad or PhD. So to sum it all, it's very very important, I would say, to do networking.
Thank you for that. In fact, one of the biggest issues and problems that most of the students from developing world struggle with is the notion that uh, just skills from your domain are not enough. There are other aspects which are very, very important, especially when you are in the developed world pursuing your higher overseas studies. So, thank you for emphasizing on that. Um, Another important aspect when it comes to it, and you have mentioned this before, is the entire visa process and um, the dependency of a lot of different things on accommodation, like how accommodation is not merely just about having a place to stay or sleep, it's much more than that. So, can you tell us your experience about it?
Sure. I think I mentioned it before that for me, getting the admit was a bit easier, I would say, because I struggled a lot, and it's not just my story. It's almost like 70% people facing the same issue. And it indeed, it's really difficult to find accommodation in Munich, in especially in Munich, and maybe big cities, I would say.
Hmm.
It Yeah, I mean, um, talking about the visa process, I applied through VFS Global, and I didn't apply through embassy process, so it wasn't that difficult process for me. But yeah, I mean, I had faced some difficulties during that time, because my stamping was not done, and I had to go to the VFS Global again and again to catch up with them. Talking about accommodation, I wasn't aware initially that we can also apply to the government student accommodation, which is student in work, I suppose
Hmm.
you know that.
Hmm.
So there are raffle process. So if you apply early, you there is lot more chance of you getting these student dorms, which I wasn't aware. And I applied to Freiman, which is far away from Munich. Because I didn't even research on that. I thought that okay, the name sounds good, and I just applied randomly. So in that case, I think it's very, very important for anybody applying to the universities in Germany. They should research well beforehand about accommodation, and especially the places which are there near your university or the city you're applying to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is this, that most of the students and aspiring students, especially, accommodation is an afterthought. It's more a checklist item that, hey, what's the big deal? You'll get a place to stay. Um, One of the things maybe you can mention about and talk about is the local registrations, which are dependent on your place of stay. And also, like, if you need to go to a bank or any other organization for financial or legal purposes, how
Mhm.
important is the aspect of your address there?
Yeah, definitely. Address is something very important to unblock your blocked account. And as soon as we are in Germany, we have to register, like do the local registration, which we call KVR in Ausländer Behörde.
Mhm.
And for that, we need local address. So initially, when I came, I had to book an Airbnb, use that address, and unblock my account, and then do the KVR registration. So for doing the KVR registration, I would need a long-term accommodation. So at that point of time, I started looking for accommodation, and I had to settle down with one of the private apartments, which was very expensive, which was definitely making a big hole on my pocket. But I had no other option. So I did that, because obviously it's mandatory for anybody to do KVR registration in 20 days of your arrival to Germany. So yeah, it's very important. Address plays a very important role, and one should make up their mind when they're applying for any German university. I would definitely suggest them to start thinking and processing about their accommodation thing beforehand.
So, the takeaway message, both from scholarships and from the accommodation aspect and the local registrations and the block account, is this, that you've got to have an organized plan, which
Definitely.
is like in true spirit with being German. So you need to have a proper plan, and the execution of that plan is very, very important in the specific decided point of time. Otherwise, you end up losing your peace of mind, you end up losing money, you end up being panicked.
Yeah.
So, to avoid all of that, highly recommended that you have the plan and you have the checklist of everything, and that too executed in due amount of time. There are variables, you don't know whether you'll get an admit or not, but then there still can be provisions how to go about doing that. For all of that, we are there to help you out. So yeah, you can always come back to us, and we can give you an alternative how to go about doing this. Um, Next, Ayushi, would obviously be the aspect of the interviews around internships as working student for jobs. How difficult, how easy, how many companies or places should you be applying to, and what was your experience overall in terms of your success ratio in conversion of the interviews?
Sure. It's not an easy path, I would say, and it's same in any country. It's not just Germany.
That's true.
Yeah, I think I was pretty lucky when I came. I got to know about this Think Make Start program from a
Mhm.
university, which was collaborated with BMW, BMW,
Yeah.
and it was
For
one great
our English audience, BMW is BMW.
BMW.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
yes, yes. No, 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 no. That's absolutely fine. I think I would also say BMW if it was. But yes, just for the clarification for our audience, BMW is BMW Motors, which is, again, it's an awesome place to work at. Please.
Yes. So we were actually working in product development and innovation department, and I got it pretty easily. To be frank, it was maybe mere by luck, or they liked my application process. So for every application, we have to write an individual cover letter and a
Mhm,
resume.
mhm,
I would stress on this that individual making individual cover letter for each application is very important, because each job role is different on its own. You can't just copy paste the previous cover letter which you have made for XYZ company and then apply with the same with the same words in the other company. So I have done it for all the companies which I have applied. I have separately made cover letters
mhm,
for all the job roles.
mhm,
After 5 months of my BMB experience, I went to Brussels for my Erasmus internship, as I spoke before.
mhm,
I was there. I was working as a full time for 6 months, because we can work for 40 hours during our internship, and it was a surreal experience. I learned a lot. I made lot of friends. Lot of networking happened, and application process for that was also not that easy. I would say there were lot of pre-assessment tests which I had to go through,
mhm.
and then I had 3 rounds of interviews there, and but I managed to clear it. Talking about Amazon, I worked recently with Amazon, and again there was a pre-assessment test, and they talked more about the leadership principle which Amazon focuses on. So all in all, I would say that one applying for any working student position or internship position, they should focus more on their CV and
Mhm.
cover letters, and also maybe try molding themselves with the job role. How are they connecting themselves with the
Mhm.
job position they're applying on, and how can they make a difference if they join for this particular position. So yeah.
Great. And thank you for the elaborate explanation of the process. I know it's never easy, but as you mentioned, it's never easy anywhere on the planet. So, relatively speaking, from my experience and all the experiences that I've heard, um, the emphasis, and as you yourself are saying, the emphasis is on personalizing your application,
Yeah.
your cover letter, giving it focus and attention, not treating it as more of a spray and pray
Yes.
approach. Is
Yeah,
that right? Yeah,
that's right.
great. So now, before we proceed to the other things, there are questions from our attendees, Ananya and Anup. They both are interested in knowing a little bit more about the accommodation. Ananya has a question that did you try on campus for the accommodations, or did you go out looking individually for yourself?
To answer to that, there is no accommodation from the university for, I believe, for
Yeah,
all German university, it's the same, right?
yeah.
So yeah, but they definitely provide you assistance. They can connect you with the local, local dorm providers, local private apartments, but it's very expensive. So it's better to do your own research beforehand, and I would say the student dorm options are quite affordable. So those can also be your option.
Yeah. And Anup has a question that did you try considering couch surfing? Yeah. Instead, due to the hassle of finding a place. Um, maybe before even you answer, maybe I can add to this that couch surfing is not that much an option because you have to register your address.
Yeah.
And for couch surfing, you won't, in almost all of the cases, be able to register that address. And if you are not able to register that, it is because you need a bona fide rental contract
Yeah.
along with a permission from the owner, a written document of sorts, which accredits you as a bona fide um, tenant of that place. You would not be able to register that place. So couch surfing, not an option. Maybe for something if you're traveling to another city, but you got to have a permanent address in Germany. But maybe you can talk a little bit about, like, because you travel to Brussels and to other places. Did you indulge in couch surfing somewhere?
No, I would say I was quite scared to do something like that, and yeah, I mean, you are in different country, and it's better to go by rules and try registering yourself. Yeah, I didn't had any option to do to go through this process. Even in Brussels, I had to register my house address and provide it to my organization, because that in that way I can I can how to say it, I can connect my whatever tax I was paying there. So it was something related to that. That's what my manager said me there, and I had to register my address there as well. So I don't think that can be an option when you come here.
That's perfectly what it is, and a lot of people, like, try to wing it as they go around. Um, uh, Mostly speaking, it's not just Germany though. Most of the developed world, yes, if you're traveling and if you're doing some short course or a program, this might be an option. Uh, but it certainly is not an option when you are pursuing a full-time program and when you have to get your residency permit. So when you do that, this is a very important aspect to know and consider. Do not indulge in that. You'll see how it goes. Okay, that would sort of land you in a whole lot of panic situation. Yeah. um One important question which always happens, especially with students seeing all these fancy advertising going on around education consultants and overseas guidance companies and things like that. What is your take on that?
I would say that it's better to go with your own gut rather than trusting anybody. Because there are so many people out there educating about different things, and which is quite not true. Because when I came here, I realized that whatever advertisements which are out there, it's just not that helpful. And coming from my personal experience, you Shivansh, you guys are doing a great job, because you are trying to connect people who are already here in the country and who are experiencing it, and getting to know from the real time experience can be more trustable than trusting the agencies and the consultant which are providing you with some incorrect advertisements and opinions.
Right. Another important message and important thing to know and understand is this: that there's an absence, and there's the reason why Nebula exists in the first place itself. There's a whole lot of absence of trust and transparency. Um, the entire scenario with consulting and all puts a barrier between people who've been there and done that. And our effort with Nebula is to actually remove all of those barriers and directly let the experience and the insights be downloaded from someone who has been there, done that, much like yourself.
Yeah.
So that's what our idea with Nebula is. Um, One question that we have gotten from an attendee is that what sort of, like, cultural difference, what was the biggest cultural shock or difference that you did feel when you landed in Germany and started pursuing your program?
The
I know
culture.
there are many, but yeah, let's go with, like, maybe one or two of them.
The biggest cultural difference which I faced here was approaching the professors. In India, it's very easy to just go walk out to the professors and ask some question, but here, it's very differently structured, and Germans are very disciplined, like very disciplined, and I think Shivansh must have experienced it. So they are very particular on time, and professors, when they come out for lectures, they won't wait for your question. You will have to email them, and it is first addressed by PhD students. And if you're not satisfied, you can walk out to the professor. After that, take an appointment, go there and ask your question, or clarify your doubt or query, whatever you have. So that was the biggest cultural shock I had.
Thank you for stating that out loud. One of the things, the famous Deutschen Pünktlichkeit, which is the German punctuality, um, is again, there's not any reason to talk about it. Everyone knows it. It's also to do with the fact that it reduces chaos. It's
Yeah,
not like, because if you tend to just impromptu approach somebody, professor or student or someone, it takes up their time. In India and much of the other developed world, it's for good and for bad both. There are pro and cons. But you can just walk up to someone and start talking, and most of the time people would humor you or entertain you. But mostly that introduces an unplanned gap, and that's something which, especially in Germany, is not appreciated.
yeah,
You take an appointment, the appointment might even be given to you in the next hour, or someone might say that I have next 15 minutes free. But when someone says next 15 minutes free, in Germany, it means 15 minutes free. It doesn't
exactly.
mean 16, it doesn't mean 15.5, it means 15. Okay. And there are famous stories where people would give you a courtesy wait time of 30 seconds, but if you are late or later than those 30 seconds there, you might not find the person there. Yeah, so that's a big shock, especially in India, where we have our famous. Our philosophy is the Jugaad philosophy, which is like everything works, yeah, or just make it work somehow. But here, then there is ideological need for plan. It's so ingrained, and once you adapt yourself to that, you also start seeing the beauty in it, because it reduces chaos, it definitely reduces stress, and it reduces unpleasant surprises. I think that I might agree with it.
Definitely.
Initially, it's a hassle.
Yeah, I mean, adding to that, it's not like you can't ask questions to the professors while they
Yes.
are teaching. You can maybe raise your hand or prompt up to them. But I was talking about, once the lecture is finished and the professor is going, we just can't run to them and ask a question. So
Yeah.
it's not like that professors are not reachable completely, but it's just about a little bit disciplined, as you spoke, and things to go in an organized manner.
Thanks so much for that. Um, Another important aspect, especially when it comes to seeking jobs, is the aspect of how do you think about. Um, a lot of people have notions what salary they should be expecting, and salary negotiations. What has been your experience? Because in India, like, the salary negotiations are pretty much appreciated, and like, like everyone sort of expects it, and everyone sort of expects at least a 20-30% raise of sorts. What has been your experience around this?
If we talk about startups, they would have a particular budget. And when I was trying to apply to startups, and when I was trying to negotiate on the amount which I would get paid on an hourly basis, they were quite stringent on it, and they mentioned, which is quite true, because here, startups get funding and it's all fixed.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the MNCs, we can actually, they're open for negotiation. Again, like, you should have those particular skills
Mhm.
and the position you're applying to should be relevant, and you should be upfront there, as in why do you need a raise, and if any XYZ organization is paying you maybe 14 euros per hour, why
Mhm.
do you think that they should pay you 16, and what added value would you bring to the company, to the position, and it all goes on and on, but they are open to the negotiation. That was my personal experience.
Got it. Just before we try to wrap the session up, you faced a unique challenge when selecting the programs, which was there were two very similar sounding programs, and you ended up being in a difficult position. Can you maybe elaborate on that?
Yes, sure. So that was one of the challenges I faced before, and I mentioned it already. I applied for masters in management program and masters in management and technology. So by the name itself, you can figure out that both are little bit similar. It's just the technology word which is added to another program.
Yeah.
However, masters in management is designed in such a way that only engineers or people from engineering background who have a touch of technology before or technical studies before can apply to it.
Mhm.
And the masters in management and technology is focused with students who have business backgrounds.
Oh, which you would think the other way is wrong.
Yes. So
Wow. Okay.
I applied to masters in management and technology program, and after quite a while, like after
Mhm.
long time, I would say, I got to know that this is not something which I have to apply, and I won't get admit in any case. And
Mhm.
during that time, the program which I'm studying now, masters in management, the deadline was very near, so I had to rush, a lot, and it was a very chaotic process. So it's very important to know well beforehand which program you're applying in, what are the requirements, what are the prerequisites, so to avoid any hassle at the last moment.
Thank you. Uh, one few questions before we draw down the curtains from our attendees. One is how much of coverage can the part-time jobs provide as far as expenses are concerned? What can a student expect out of a part-time job? Like, what is the range of like stipend that they would earn from it, and what portion or percentage of your expenses does that cover?
Mhm. So, with the working student, it's different with different organization and also different positions. So, internships, if you're doing internship, you'll be working for 40 hours, and then the pay will be little high because you are paid in hourly basis. If you're doing working student, on the other hand, you'll be working for 20 hours, and then again it will be, the pay would be little less.
All right.
Talking about the coverage, you can it's pretty sufficient, I would say, at least in my case.
Mm-hmm.
And the stipend for working student, it would range from 900 euros to maybe 15 or 1600 euros depending on the company.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain companies I know, like Road and Shorts, they also pay 24 euros per hour to a student. I
Mm-hmm.
have few friends who are doing that, but it's very difficult to get in. In
Right.
that case, you earn like maybe 2,000 euros, but then again, the
Yeah.
taxes are
Yes.
equally. So
Yes.
it's like it's quite easy to manage if you have a working student or an internship position. uh, Adding to that, it definitely adds a value in your resume if you have experience beforehand. In if you want to work for a full-time job, that will definitely back you up. But if you're not able to find any internship or a working student, you can also go for mini jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Even that helps you in summing up your expense. So all in all, I would say that it's not that difficult once you come here.
Yeah.
Things will you'll be able to figure out things on your own. It's not a big deal.
So is it safe to say that if as a part of the mini job you are getting paid even a little bit more than a working student job or an internship job, it's better to take working student or internship job because it pertains to your field and gives you a lot more value in terms of when you go ahead and apply for full-time positions or further positions, that even if the pay is little low, then it's safe to say that it's better to go for the working student job.
Yes, definitely, because it will add value to your resume. You can use those experience when you're applying for your full-time job, and you learn a lot from there. I'm not saying you will not learn anything from the mini jobs. It definitely teaches you discipline, hard work, perseverance, but what you'll work what you learn from working student would be something technical and something related to the studies which you are doing. So yeah, it will add value to your stay, to your resume. So I would prefer working student or an internship on a safer side.
Thank you. On the side of you have worked with Frankfurt School Blockchain Center. As what was your experience? What part of the blockchain technology did you work on? And does it somewhat correlate to your entrepreneurial streak or your urge to be an entrepreneur down the line?
Yeah, I mean, my main goal was to learn something which I'll use in my further endeavor, which is having something having set up by my own, I would say. I was very much interested towards blockchain technology when I was since I was working in my first job, which was IBM India Private Limited, and when I got this opportunity, which was Frankfurt Business School Blockchain Center, it was indeed a surreal experience, I would say, because there was lot of learning from scratch. So the Professor Philip Sandner, he's the main head of Blockchain Center. He was actually motivating and motivating women, especially because in blockchain sector there are not many women who are working towards this particular technology. So this program was specially designed for women,
Mhm.
and who have this entrepreneurial urge to bring something new and design something new. So and it was also again related to my course which I was studying, and
Mhm.
I'm writing my master thesis into the same sector, which is focused on Ethereum scaling.
Mhm.
It was a great experience. I had a lot of learning, so much networking. I know many women entrepreneurs who have worked on the same sector, and the most important thing which I really loved about this program was I met women from all over the world. It was not just focused towards Germany, but women from all over the world who are interested into this particular domain. So that was a great experience.
I am so fortunate to know that there's so much of focus on female centric programs, and that you were part of one. Was the program more focused on the technology aspect or on the business domain of blockchain technology?
I would say it was an amalgamation of both, but they were more focused towards technical aspect because they were trying to teach us how to build smart contracts and
Mhm.
what are the aspect of it.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, there was also something which they wanted to bring something new out of it,
Right.
which brings the business domain into a very smaller in a very smaller sector, in a very smaller way, but there was a mix of both, I would say.
Thank you so much, Ayushi. And it has been an honor and a pleasure to have you on board, Nibila. And for all of our attendees who are present for the talk, thank you so much for attending. And hope this knowledge and insight would help you, and you would also be able to help other people. Please feel free to invite any of your friends or anyone that you know who can benefit from this. Um, for those who couldn't attend this event, there would be a recording of the event available. Uh, Alongside, Ayushi is there on the platform. If you send across any queries and all, we'll make sure that those are relayed to her. And you can also prospectively book a time with her as per her availability. So thank you so much, Ayushi. It has been a great honor and pleasure having you on board.
Thank you so much, Shivansh. I mean, I'm really happy that I could share my experience, and if it would help anybody, like even a single person, it would be really. I would be really happy with that, because that was my main goal and motive towards it. And I would again say you guys are doing a great job by helping students who are coming, because it gives you a clear picture, and you can organize your further studies and experience in a proper way.
Thank you again for all the kind words and for the encouragement. We believe strongly in what we are doing, and we believe strongly in bringing trust and transparency to this entire domain. And we want to bring more and more student success stories here. Uh, we are also very focused on female and minorities because that's generally gets lost in all the noise. And thank you so much again. And it's a goodbye choose off with the scene from Germany, and it's snowing in Munich, so a beautiful snow-drenched Munich. And we'll hope to see you soon again. Thank you so much, Ayush.
Thank you, Shivansh. It was my pleasure. Have a good day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.